again, Movie Nights listeners. Today I'm here with Diane Mehrez, continuing down the fascinating path that Sinbad Battle of the Dark Knights has led me on. She was a producer on the film. If I have my information correct, your brother directed the Jordanian portions.
That's correct.
Your brother Alan.
Yes.
So, how did you get involved with all of this?
Well, my brother and I had a film production company together, and we produced many, many films during that time period. And this was a script that he had written and insisted on directing. And we decided, okay, we're going to do this as a go on this picture. So there were huge battle scenes in this film. And we needed some place that wouldn't end up costing like $100 million to do these battle scenes. And I think it was Frank Stallone, who at the time was a friend of my brother's, and he had suggested he knew a friend named Vince. I don't remember his last name, who was like the head of security for the Prince of Jordan. And they ended up going there and checking it out, and they said, "Oh, we'll give you all our soldiers with all the horses you need, and we'll just do these huge battle scenes." And it sounded great. And he said, "Oh, it's terrific. They're going to let us film everywhere. We're not going to have any problems or whatever." And so we decided to film in Jordan. And they did not have a film community. So when they got there, what happened is that there was no equipment, there was no lighting, there was nothing. So we had to contact the closest place, which was Israel, and have them take over all the equipment that we needed, which in itself was very arduous, shall we say. And then they started filming, but before we had gotten this cast, it was a very good cast, and actually originally, I think it was Hilary Swank who was supposed to be the princess in the film. And because, we had another film project going, and we had to move the schedule a little bit, and she couldn't change her schedule. I don't remember what it was, if she had another engagement, or if she was getting married. I don't remember, or she had just gotten married to Chad Lowe. And so for some reason she got out of doing the movie, which is probably her best career movie. And, but we did have a really good cast. I mean, we had Richard Grieco and Dean Stockwell and Mickey Rooney and Zelda Rubinstein from Poltergeist, and the kid in the beginning of portions with the storytelling, that's Ryan Slater. That's Christian Slater's brother, or half brother. And and that was in addition to the great fighters we had. We had Dante Bosco, and I think you interviewed Robert Chapin, and Ron Hall was in it, and they're all like terrific fighters. So the cast was great. We had the great locations, supposedly great fights, and we went off. And in the meantime, I'm back in LA because I'm prepping for another film, and I'm posting on another film. And I start getting calls like, early in first of all, because there was no equipment, so we had to get the equipment out. And then after this, I start getting calls all the time, crazy stuff is happening, and the line producer's calling me and saying, help, there's crazy stuff happening. There's a guy walking around with a gun. And I'm like, oh, that must be Vince, because he's like, has all these weapons. And I had to call him and say, stop threatening the crew. It was unbelievable. And then as filming is progressing, things are actually getting worse, and it's very, very hot there. I start getting calls from Richard Grieco, and he's like, "Oh, I can't believe this, but my trailer has no air conditioning." And I said, "Well, it's the Prince's trailer. There's no trailers out there. There's no film community." I said, he graciously gave us all his all his stuff. So one of them was his trailer, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't call the prince and say, hey, I can't believe you didn't give us any air conditioning. What kind of a prince are you?
Yeah.
I had to make do. And he's like, well, this is just unacceptable. There's, I said, it's the desert. This is what do you want? You're making Sinbad, and then it just was going downhill from there. I would get calls from the crew saying things like, we're going to walk off if we don't get paid. And I said, why aren't you getting paid? And they said, well, there's no accountant around. And I said, what do you mean? I paid to send her over, And they said, no, she can't be found. And, we haven't been paid in like 2 weeks. And I said, this is outrageous. So I call up the line producer and I asked him, what's going on? Where's Lydia? And he goes, well, nobody's seen her. And I said, well, you better go find her because we have the whole crew going to walk off. I said, go up to her room. He goes, okay, fine. He goes up to her room. He goes, well, nobody's here. I said, how's that even possible? I can't, where is she? And then he goes, wait a minute. And he goes, what is that under the bed? And he goes, there she is under the bed. I said, Lydia is under the bed? And I said, what? Give me the phone right now. I'm talking to her. I said, what the hell? Get out from under the bed. She's like, no. There's this guy, Vince, walking around. He's going to kill everybody. I don't want to die here.
Oh, no.
I said, I don't care if there's a guy with a gun. Go pay the crew. It's like, I'm scared to death. I don't want to come out from under the bed. It was just ridiculous. So I had to have the line producer work with her to get the crew paid. And it was just continuing like that all the time. And then I'd get reports, back from the set. Well, I can't find Mickey Rooney and Zelda Rubinstein because they're having an affair somewhere and, they can't be found.
They were having an affair somewhere?
Well, this is what allegedly.
Allegedly happened.
They were off. I mean, of course, I wasn't there and I can't confirm anything, but this was the talk going around.
Wow.
And in the meantime, there were no extras or anything. Not a lot. I mean, not professional people to be found. So it was very hard getting actors there. So they would just pull people off the street. Like, for instance, okay, the guy who was supposed to be the Sultan or whatever never showed up. And my brother took his spot in the movie as the Sultan. And they hired some woman off the street that they just pulled off the street literally to be his wife.
Wow.
And that's why she's like, kind of the whole time. I can remember one scene particularly because I'm sitting in editing, trying to edit parts of the film. And this woman that is just, they have her tied up and it's like they're threatening her and torturing her supposedly. She's standing next to my brother and she has this look on her face like, it's kind of like, I said, what is this? And my brother is just like the worst when it came to acting as a Sultan. First of all, he had this terrible, terrible accent. I'm sitting in the editing and watching this and I just can't believe it. It's like he has a totally waspish American accent. At least everybody else tried to have a kind of Oriental type Middle Eastern accent, but his was just terrible. And so I was sitting there and thinking, I've got to revoice him. I'm just going to revoice him. And I did. I revoiced him. And I remember in the final cut, he's watching the movie and it gets to his part and he's like, what? You revoiced me? You revoiced me? And I said, you didn't look anything like a Sultan. I said, what do you expect me to do? And then the next thing I know, my mother's on the phone with me. He went to my mother. And he like told on me, My mother's like, how could you revoice your brother? I'm like, what? So it was kind of just weirder and weirder all the time. And I remember also one scene, that same scene with my brother, and I'm watching it, and there's somebody came in and they're fighting, right in front of them, to try to help them and release them or whatever. So they're fighting with the guards, and my brother is like looking right, looking left, at the fighting action, up, right. And then all of a sudden he's looking up, and I'm like, what, are they fighting on the ceiling? What happened? I think we cut that out. We should have left it in. It was really funny. But as things started to kind of get worse and worse, finally I told him, you got to leave. And this is because what happened then was that there was a huge fight scene that was coming up. And I thought, well, he got professional people to be in it. That's all the military, I thought. But no, he was going to get a bunch of just random people off the street as extras, give them all swords. The military is on horseback with swords. And I said, is somebody choreographing this? What's going on with this? He goes, no, we're just going to give them swords and have them go at each other.
And what I heard was that there were no... What I heard was that there were no prop swords, too. Those were all real swords.
Real swords. Real soldiers on horseback with real swords. And I said, there is no way I am going to let you go. Hundreds of people going at each other with real weapons. I said, do you want to kill hundreds of people? I said, this is not going to happen. And I canceled these fights because they were going to end in major tragedy. And so I canceled all the fight scenes that were there. And of course, then there was no reason to be in Jordan at that point. And things were getting worse. There's no equipment. It's hard to pay everybody because there's this crazy person running around threatening everybody. And so I said, you've got to come back. And he said, well, we're not done with the film. And I said, well, we're just going to have to work it out here. We're going to have to find a way to shoot it here. So, and we'd already spent a ton of money, millions of dollars, but we got to finish it. So everybody came back, and then we had to decide how we're going to finish this film. And my brother is working on another movie, and it's basically just me and the editor and, maybe the line producer. And I'm trying to figure out what to do here because, the scenes that had come back were just, very difficult to cut together. And you could see that they had trouble out there, and it was a difficult movie. So, but we had to finish it because we had spent millions. And so I said, well, maybe we can add in something like a storytelling device, and we can work it this way. And I set about trying to write something, with the editor. And my brother came in and said, I want Elvis to do it, this Elvis Restaino. And he was working on another film with us, The Good Life. And he had written that script. And he was also, he directed a couple of small things. And he just thought, oh, Elvis is going to make it so great. Now what? So I said, are you kidding? Elvis has a very kind of peculiar, like artistic manner, let's say. And I said, I just don't think this is kind of the right thing for him, no, he's going to be great. I don't know what. And I was thinking maybe we should take it and totally go the opposite way because it was just, not working. Maybe we should make it into a comedy. And he didn't like that idea. So he got Elvis on board, who also thought it should be kind of comedic, but not kind of like a spoofy type of thing. But, he wanted to please my brother. So he said, yes, it's going to be a drama. It's going to be this and that. And he took over filming those in between sequences. And then we went off to Bulgaria to shoot it. And that was with Ryan Slater. And the actor in there was actually like one of the biggest actors in Bulgaria. And, when he started putting in the sequences, they were supposed to be kind of serious, but somehow, Elvis, he kind of Elvis is the murky con.
Yes.
I think that explains it all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if he was going for serious,
Yeah.
proclaiming his love for Sinbad, various fart jokes, I don't know if he succeeded in the serious element.
You know, it was really weird because I'm sitting there in editing, and again, you know, the sequences start, and then all of a sudden, for no reason whatsoever, there's these fart sounds. You don't even comment on them, nothing. They're just in there. And we're like, what is that? And now when I watch the movie, I'm just like on the floor laughing all the time. It's just that funny. And what's even funnier, some of the reviews I've read on the movie, those just have me in stitches the whole time. Like, your review was absolutely hilarious.
Well, thank you.
But when I see the movie again and I see the sequences with the Murky Con and with Dean Stockwell and the voice, and it's just so hysterical, and it almost works as a comedy now. It really didn't go the way my brother had envisioned it.
Oh, it is so funny, but it was obvious watching it that it was not what it was intended at all. Exactly.
It was because, you know, you had too many cooks in the kitchen, I guess they say, and then it came out to be what it was, and I remember, the DP on it was Doug Milson, who's actually a very big DP, and he worked on Full Metal Jacket and with Stanley Kubrick, and he's a very big DP. And I would ask him, you know, Doug, I mean, how bad is it? He'd say, you want to know how bad it is? It's Sinbad.
Oh.
I mean, they even had their inside jokes. It was just so funny. But I think that overall, I can't believe that we were able to piece it together and put out a movie after all that, and it was actually bought, and it was actually shown. So I think that was a big accomplishment.
It was. I mean, it was surprising how well it was pieced together, considering what wasn't filmed and what you had to use to kind of try and make this cohesive.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, considering the lack of equipment there in Jordan and lack of actors and, for certain scenes, it really was quite amazing that it was able to be put together. And so, but, it was. And I think nowadays films like that are actually more, than they were in those days, because I think in those days it was just, you would say, oh, this isn't a movie or something. But nowadays I think that people see the humor in some of the shots and can appreciate that something happened along the way. Wonder what happened. And that is what happened. That is basically what happened, but I think you suspected it. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's been this huge rise in cult classic films like that, movies that are didn't turn out like expected but are enjoyable in different ways like that.
Yes, I mean, some of the things like Dean Stockwell's voice and all that.
I was told that was his actual voice. I thought it was pitched up or something.
We did pitch it up.
Oh, you did pitch it up. Okay, I thought it was.
Yes. When we tried to work it together with the other parts, we had to do something, so we pitched it a little bit. It was hysterical because, I mean, he did do some of it like that, so it was funny in itself. But
sorry to interrupt. You read the script that Elvis Restaino had written for the storybook portions and all that. Why was a sequel set up at the end? I have to ask.
I guess that was also Elvis, he thought he's going to make this masterpiece. So he set it up that way. And I have no idea why it turned into a horror movie there at the end. Because, he's got this kind of spoofy thing going, and then at the end, it kind of looks like one of those horror movies, and I'm not sure if he wanted to spoof the endings in horror movies as well, because in every horror movie you've got this kind of ending. So
it was baffling to me watching that. So you were working on the editing for this film to piece this together. Yeah. Another question I have to ask about the zoom in at the end.
Yeah.
What was the reasoning behind this? The three
Again,
zoom-ins?
that was another Elvis thing.
Okay.
And I mean, Elvis also directed another movie for us, which I think was Bloodsport 4. And you can kind of see he has a very grandiose kind of style. He's a set director and set designer on other films. He's also an interior designer. And if you look him up, you'd see kind of his style. And I think, he has an interesting, different style.
Well, I think it's evident in the film that he has a very different style. Yeah. Maybe that's why there was some of the very interesting, I thought, choices to include parts of the living room set in Bulgaria and kind of have the child and the grandpa in the story with them, with the living room around them. And I thought that was actually a really interesting visual.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of it was very interesting visually. I mean, even some of the places that we shot in Jordan, which you wouldn't even notice, were actually historical sites, and people aren't even allowed in there. They actually allowed us to film there. So,
and before that, there was only a couple films that were able to film in some portions that you guys were filming at. Like Indiana Jones and I think something else. Yeah. Exactly. So, I mean, it's interesting that all that is in there, but, it's funny that somehow it got lost in translation. But, it is, some of it is hysterical. I don't think I have ever laughed as much as watching some, even just the opening, sequence there. It's hysterical. So, and then when they get to Dean Stockwell, I think that's pretty fun. I think they have the first, somebody posted the first 11 minutes or something of the film on YouTube. And, that's pretty funny. Well, I had discovered it just by, because of Dean Stockwell, because I'm a huge Quantum Leap fan. I was just like, what are some things that he was in? And I saw a trailer for this in Italian. And all I saw was the visual of him with the wig and the bucket hat, and I was like, I need to see this yesterday. So I ended up finding it that way, but I had no idea it would be this kind of film. I love films that are so bad that they're good. Yeah. But I was just looking for a Dean Stockwell movie, and instead discovered this kind of treasure of a film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's hysterical. In fact, I've shown your review to all my friends who have seen the film, and they are just in stitches. It is so funny.
So were you at? There was a screening of the movie that I know some of the actors went to. Were you at that screening or a screening of the film?
I don't know if I was in the country at the time. I may have not. I don't remember that screening. We were working on so many pictures at the time that I don't remember. And it was a while back. But I don't remember that screening. No.
Okay. Cause
I'm sure that happened.
Yeah. Well, I know there was some theatrical screenings in some places. And I interviewed Robert Chapin and also Anthony DeLongis about this, and they both mentioned being at the screening and some of their reactions to the movie, or a screening of it, I suppose.
Yeah, it may have had a limited release. We sometimes did that. We sometimes had a limited release on the films, and maybe had it just in LA or someplace like that. And but I wouldn't have gone to those. I probably would have gone to a premiere one or one that we showed ourselves. But I didn't see that one, no. Too bad. It would have been funny.
Yeah, I heard the reaction was pretty much that. So I think everyone involved, it was not what they hoped it would be, but they got some entertainment out of it, I think.
Yeah, there's some entertainment there. Yeah, it's kind of like, seeing some of those movies now, like The Room or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. My kids love it. My kids are grown now, so they're like, they're teenagers, and of course they find it extremely amusing.
So you actually have like a copy of this movie then. Is it just a copy from what you made and put together, or is it a copy that you actually purchased?
Oh, no. It's probably a copy I had from, many years back when we made the film. I don't even know if it's possible to buy the film now.
Well, it is, because I was able to purchase it, but finding it in English was hard. I found a Spanish version of it.
Right. And did you have to buy it in Spain, or?
Yeah, I think I had to I purchased it on eBay, but it was from Spain.
Oh, okay.
And it had both tracks on it, so I was able to get the English track on it.
Yeah, because
I think you can also
how to buy it, and I don't know it. I don't know.
Well, I think there's some from the UK as well, because Robert Chapin was also able to purchase a copy of it, but he had to get it from the UK. I guess finding it in the States is next to impossible.
Yeah, I should put it out again.
Definitely. A lot of people were asking about it, after the review. They wanted to check it out.
Yeah, I'll have a talk with the distributor and see if they want to put it out again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you produced some other films as well, including the Bloodsport sequels.
Yes.
Which is that why Daniel Bernhardt was going to be involved with Sinbad at some point?
Yes. At one point, we had Daniel Bernhardt on contract, and so my brother wanted to put him in Sinbad at one point, but then decided, he was going to go bigger budget and whatnot, and and ended up not using Daniel, which I don't know if that was a mistake. Daniel was certainly more serious and a really good fighter, and still is. I think he was in that Keanu Reeves movie not long ago, and also in the Matrix, a couple of the Matrix movies. So, and he does a lot of work still. So, but yeah, he was a really good fighter.
It would have been a different movie for sure.
Yeah, it would have been a different movie.
So how would you say?
I don't know if that's good or bad.
It would. Well, I don't think it would be bad, because I love Daniel Bernhardt, but it would definitely be different than what it is.
Yes, that's for sure. Yeah, and Daniel had been studying with swords and everything, and he had gotten pretty good with fighting and with the sword. So, it would have been probably a different movie for sure.
So, how would you say this movie ranks compared to the other movies that you worked on, as far as like the crazy things that were going on trying to get made?
As far as the crazy things going on?
Yeah.
We've had some crazy things go on in other movies, but this is definitely the craziest. This was, on 2 continents, really. It's like really crazy stuff. So, yeah, this one was the craziest, but I've had crazy things happen on other films, of course. I mean, that's just the nature of filming, is when you film, there's always crazy stuff happening.
Well, and the other ones that you worked on or produced were other martial arts films.
Yeah.
And I have not seen them, but I presume they were in other countries as well, and so there was a lot of experience trying to do work 2 different countries to get this done. Yeah,
like, for example, we did Bloodsport 2, and that was with Daniel Bernhardt, and we had gone to Thailand to film, and I was in LA, and I was receiving the film cans back, and they hadn't shipped them properly, and I got a call from the airport, from customs, and they're like, well, we've got all these cans of film, and they haven't been sent properly, and so we're about to open all the cans because, could be drugs. And I said,
oh, no.
Oh my God, you can't open those cans. If you open those cans, I'm going to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, you cannot open those cans. She says, well, we're just going to have to do it because, it isn't the way to send film. And I said, listen, let's make a deal here. Don't send them to me. Send them to my lab, which is Photochem. They're a legitimate big company. Photochem did all, film development for all the companies around. So send it to them. They'll, process the film, and then you'll know that they're not drugs, And she said, okay, but this is the last time. So I said, okay, fine. So couple of hours later or so, a few hours later, I get a call from Photochem, and they say, Diane, you better get down here right away. And I said, why? What happened? Did they open the cans? And they said, no. And I said, so what's wrong? Is there something wrong with the film? And they're like, you better come down here right away. So I dash over to Photochem, and I'm just like freaking out. What's happening with the film? And they say, you better sit down for this one. And they start up the film on the dailies, and it's the prison, which is like supposed to be the roughest, toughest prison, the worst people in the world, the toughest, meanest, nastiest guys in the world, always fighting each other or whatever. And the prisoners come into view, and they're wearing pink prison outfits. And I said, what is this? And they go, I don't know. Is there something wrong with the color of your film or something? And I'm like, what could be wrong? I immediately, I said, can I please use your phone to call my brother? He's in Thailand. And he directed that too. And I get on the phone with him, and I say, what the heck? Why are the prison outfits pink? And he said, oh, we got a good deal on the fabric. I was like, what? Kill you. So that was difficult. And I did try to, I kind of pushed the color timing and tried to change it to magenta at least. But it was what it was. So that was another, funny thing that happened. But there's always stuff like that. There's always things, and the people on the other side filming always think, the people in post are going to fix it. And it's just, no, we just want to kill them when we see the footage. So
there's only so much you can do with what you have. That's sort of where it starts.
Fix in post. Yeah.
It seems like it was a very up and down relationship trying to work with your brother and get these things done.
It was, and he's my older brother, so it's not like, he kind of dictates everything. So it was difficult, yeah. Yeah, we don't work together anymore, to say the least.
Do you work on films anymore, or what are you doing currently?
I'm a consultant, and I consult for people's other films, and I've worked on commercials, and now I'm getting into television, so I still do that, but I was raising my two younger sons, and that was difficult at the same time, because when we were doing all these films at once, it was very difficult. There was a lot of travel. My oldest son, I basically had to homeschool him and have tutors on the set constantly. We would be in different countries, and, he got a good education that way, and he is getting his PhD at Cornell, so
wow.
I think it worked out okay for him.
Definitely.
But it was much more difficult with the two younger ones, so I had to stay in one place then.
Mm-hmm. Was there any stories or anything that your brother shared with you, or about his experience, or has he said anything, what it was like filming there?
Oh yeah, he's told me it was crazy. It was just the same, he'd be out there, and he could also, the same thing with he couldn't find Lydia, and people would come up to him and go, I need to be paid, and he's like, what am I gonna do, and it was, I'm surprised he didn't go look for her though, although maybe he did and he couldn't find her under the bed, but as I understand, she spent the whole time under the bed, so. She didn't want to get shot, so.
Yeah, it seems like that was going around a lot. A lot of the stories that I was hearing.
Yeah, I finally had to call Vince and tell him there was some sort of emergency somewhere else in Jordan or something, and had him leave because he was just scaring everybody.
So did you arrange that, or was that?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, well, I mean, it seems like a lot of the problems started with Vince because of the promises that just weren't kept.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have to say that the prince and the king and whatever of Jordan and the whole country was very gracious. They did give us a lot of things, and they were as good as they could possibly be. And as I understand, they do have a filming community there now. They have equipment and stuff, so people can actually film there. And they do want people to come and film there now. But, at the time, they didn't have enough for us. I mean, they were just starting, so they didn't really have the equipment we needed or whatnot. But otherwise, everything else, they just accommodated us and they gave us, and they were very good.
That sounds great. It sounds like they were very kind, very accommodating.
They were very kind, very gracious, and they gave us parts of the castle. It was just really, they were very, very kind. And accommodations and everything, they were very good. And I would love to shoot another film in Jordan. Everybody did love the area, so. And I hadn't heard about the chicken incident until Robert Chapin. But wow. Wow.
It seems like everyone has a lot of crazy stories from there.
Yeah, that was one of the crazy. I mean, I can't believe they were killing chickens. That was awful. Awful. Especially since most of my family are all vegans. So they're all like, how could you do that? I said, I didn't do anything. I didn't know about it.
Well, it's sort of just a situation no one ever really wants to be in, but guess it was what it was.
Yeah. And I hadn't heard about the dead tourist or
that.
Yeah, so I didn't hear that from my brother, and I didn't hear that from anybody else. So some of the stories are first-time stories, and I'm sure that there's other people too who have many, many stories. And I know even in Bulgaria, there were stories, and Christopher Poole, who worked on the show, he was one of the line producers. He has his stories as well, and he does Sister Wives now. That's his show. Okay. And on one of his sites or something, he talks about how his time in Bulgaria or on this movie, in Jordan or Bulgaria, wherever it was. But yeah, he talks about it being the most interesting time of his career as well.
It seems like everyone had a different crazy experience. So I'll have to try and read that. I'd love to read it.
Crazy experience. I'm sure if you got Lydia out, she'd tell you all about why she was hiding under there the whole time.
Wow, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So, is there anything from this that you've learned that has helped you in your career since then?
I think that, it's very hard when you're kind of like a pioneer to something. It's bad to be the first person to go and try out something like that. Like, you may have a great locale, but if you're not sure, you haven't set up everything prior, it's not going to work out. So I think that prep is a really important part of it. And I think that at the time, we had contracts, so the pay or play deals, and we had to go at a certain time, and we couldn't delay anymore. And I think that that's kind of hurt us. But prep is very, very, very important. So you've got to make sure you've got enough prep, and you've got to make sure that you check out everything thoroughly before you go on your shoot.
Well, it always starts from the top before it starts sort of tumbling down.
It might have been more difficult then because we worked with film then, and now things are, you don't need to work with film. Film is difficult to work with out there, and So maybe slightly easier now, but it's still, prep is very, very important.
Definitely. Do you have any parting words that you want to tell any of the listeners? Anything you want to leave people with?
No, I kind of want them to see the movie themselves and see what they think, and
you got to get it distributed again,
Yeah, and they should look at it from that angle of everything that happened, and that it's more funny than serious. I wouldn't take the film too seriously. That's what I recommend.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. It's very cool of you.
Thanks for reviewing the film.
And thank you for watching it.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
You too.